Okay, well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode the chapter 2 to Naruto the Edo Tensei Chronicles, or Naruto the Dance of Death. I think at least that's what the first chapter was called. Okay, so again, this is a fanfiction written by 11 the Ego. The links will be in the description. Please do support him. And do read his story on fanfiction.net as well, as it really does help do something, definitely. Well, let's just get right into this, and I'm sorry if I'm sounding a bit less enthusiastic. College has just started up again, and holy motherfucking god, I forgot how tiring it could be. Anyway, so let's get into chapter fucking 2. The morale of the allied shinobi forces was low, and it was only getting lower as the enemies they faced took down more of their comrades. Sakura stood in the medic tent warily, attending to her patient as efficiently as possible before moving on to the next person, waiting for treatment. Her mind was slowing down from fatigue, and it seemed like mankind would lose in the war. Wiping away sweat from her brow as she sighed in relief as Shizune took over while she took a break. Sakura was thankful and she nodded wordlessly before heading out to get some water. The view outside was not much better than what she had to deal with in her tent. Madara's forces were strong and they were decimating the shinobi without any hesitation. Sakura watched as more and more injured and dead people were brought into the camp, and she couldn't help but worry about her friends. Ino was fighting alongside Shikamaru and Choji, and she had faith in the lazy Nara to take care of both his teammates, using his genius intellect. Sai was most likely fighting with teammate, while Kakashi-sensei and Naruto was... Sakura froze. The very thought of her deceased teammate was enough to bring tears to her eyes. After Naruto died, she vowed to get Sasuke back for both of them. And when she did, Sakura knew that she would never forgive the last Uchiha. That bastard joined the Akatsuki, and she had no idea if he was still a part of it or not, but it didn't matter. That same organization had taken away the person who had stood by her side through all her hardships. Sakura clenched her fists with repressed rage. She didn't know whether she would kill Sasuke or spare his miserable life. That scum. I added that part in, sorry. As she quietly replenished her energy, a loud yell could be heard throughout the camp. Enemies approaching! They're transforming into random shinobi! Don't trust anyone! Holy hell, I don't know why that was difficult. Anyway, various screams could be heard as the enemy descended on them, and it was then that Sakura had finally realized the reality of the situation she was in. This war, this bloodshed, it was only the beginning of what was yet to come. As anyone around her began panicking, the familiar voice of her best friend's father, Inoichi Yamanaka, rang through her head. Everyone, draw a circle around you and stay inside of it. If anyone is to leave, assume that they are the enemy. We'll find a way to distinguish the clones from the allies. Don't give up. Noticing everyone had received the same message as her, Sakura was quick to listen to the instructions she received. She is right in front of the medical tent where Shizune was, and she was determined not to let anyone past her. Shizune-san! She yelled. What do we do if someone's injured? The Hokage's assistant peeked through the flaps of the tent and looked at Sakura grimly. I don't know. The risk is too high right now. If someone is injured, we can't leave or else we'll die. But if we don't leave, our comrades may die. All we can do now is wait for Shukaku-san to think of a plan and hope for the best. Sakura nodded, then returned her attention to her surroundings. With everyone standing still, it gave the pink-haired Kunoichi time to rest and restore her chakra reserves. Minutes passed and everyone was slowly becoming more paranoid as HQ was yet to come up with a response to the problem. That was when a giant explosion could be heard from the distance. A dark black cloud gathering around the area of the blast. It was instantaneous, and then it was gone in a flash as if it never happened. Sakura stared at the direction of the commotion in abject horror, wondering what new problems would threaten them now.
Kakashi! Someone's coming from the right!
The silver-haired Jonin briefly glanced at Guy, who was currently standing back to back with him. At the moment, things weren't looking good. Well, that was a severe understatement. They were fighting 7 of the reanimated swordsmen from the Hidden Mist, and of course, they hadn't received their titles for nothing. Kakashi steeled himself as Jinpachi Munashi of the Shibuki rushed at him. Holy fuck, I probably butchered that completely. Showering explosive tags everywhere he went. Damn it, swore Kakashi as he hastily dodged the attack, using Zabuza's Kubikiri Boko, to block a majority of the explosives.
Guy, we need to defeat them right now. There's no time left to waste. If we want to get to the front lines, this is the only way we can. We can make it a challenge. Whoever defeats a swordsman first gets 5 extra wins. Got it?
Guy grinned, then struck his hand out in an exaggerated thumbs up.
Yosh, my youthful rival, finally challenges me for once. I can't give up now. Let's go!
While Copy Ninja had his hands full with Jinpachi, Guy was struggling to deal with Kushimaru Kurirare of the Nubari. With each swing, the 2 renowned shinobi of Konoha were wearing down, their previous fights with the rest of the swordsmen tiring them out. Kakashi and Guy wound up next to one another, taking layered breaths, never putting their kunai down as they stared their opponents down. Just as they were about to approach the swordsman, a deafening blast shook the ground violently. The 2 stared at the sky, watching as a black cloud formed and shot something down before disappearing just as quickly as it came. Oi, Kakashi, mumbled a disturbingly quiet Guy. That was near us, wasn't it? Forget the bet. We need to work together and finish them off. The silver-haired Jonin merely nodded, giving his rival a look of determination before they rushed forward to engage their enemy. He swung the Kubikiroboko in a wide arc, forcing Jinpachi to flick backwards to avoid the wrath of the executioner's blade.
I don't know who you think you are, he snarled at Kakashi, but you are not worthy of holding that sword. If you don't drop it, I'll have to take it from your dead body.
The ex-Anbu knew better than to antagonize the feared shinobi before him, and he made haste to end the fight as quickly as possible. With a last burst of speed, he slid right under the giant Shibuki and kicked Jinpachi's leg, causing him to fall backwards. Unfortunately for Jinpachi, he fell right into the famed green beast of Konoha's lotus kick, which caused part of him to disintegrate. At the same moment, Kakashi blocked a giant needle that was headed for Guy, courtesy of the Nubari. Kakashi felt that his chakra reserves were high enough, so he pulled out his final move to end the battle.
Chidori!
Wow, that was weird. Kushimaru didn't have a chance to get out of the way as he was struck with the lightning-style technique right in his heart. In a matter of moments, the 2 swordsmen had been defeated, but that wasn't enough to stop them from moving. Guy stood in a defensive position as he watched the enemy slowly reform before a yell came from the distance.
The sealing team is here!
Oh, fuck, wow. Get out of the way! Kakashi and Guy stood back as the swordsmen of the mist were sealed, and they wasted no time in running towards the location of the blast from earlier on. Something told them that this wasn't good news, and they made haste to get to it as fast as they could. Gaara had his hands full. Not only had his father come back, but the second Mizukage, the third Raikage, and second Tsuchikage had also been reanimated. Behind the red head stood hundreds of shinobi ready to fight to the death, but Gaara knew it would take a miracle for these 4 legends to be sealed. After all, they didn't acquire their titles for nothing. The third Raikage, A, was one of the fastest shinobi known to have ever lived. His speed and strength were incomparable, making him one of the biggest threats at the moment. There hadn't been much progress made. Gaara was busy with his father, the third Kazekage whose jutsu could only be countered by his son Sand. On the other hand, Onoki, the current Tsuchikage, was busy fighting his deceased predecessor, whose particle jutsu could only be encountered by his own. This left the Mizukage and Raikage up to the rest of the shinobi, and Gaara was extremely worried. He didn't have the luxury of looking back to see what was happening to his comrades, but the panicked screams were enough to let him know that if he didn't step in to help, more blood would be shed. At this moment, his father was trapped in Sand Hell. He was surprised to see his old man look up to him with regret. "Gaara," his father said, "I failed you as a parent. When I ordered Yashamaru to kill you, the only person he hated was me. Not you. Never you. Your mother, Karura, she loved you, son. She gave you life and she will always be with you, no matter what happens. As the Kage, you have a responsibility to your people. Don't do what I did. Don't be the person I became." The redhead was crying, tears dripping down his face as he heard what he had wanted to hear for his whole life. He watched as his father slowly sealed, and as he looked up, he saw his son take up his mother's visage. She truly was protecting him even in death. Just as things were looking up, it seemed like Madara had one more trump card up his sleeve. Dark clouds began gathering in the sky and thundering a boom. An object was thrown in the sand below, causing the shock waves to roll out where it had landed. The dust cleared. Gaara and Onuki, who had defeated the second Tsuchikage, stood in a defensive position as they saw another coffin standing in the distance. Both of them steeled themselves as they watched the lid fall down, and neither wanted to know what powerhouse they were going to face. Nothing could have prepared them for who they saw. Gaara felt his heart stop as he saw his friend, the person who changed his life and made him the man he was today, stand before him as an Edo Tensei. Naruto felt everything happen within moments. As soon as the Sage of Six Paths and Shinigami told him of what he was to do, the Reaper wasted no time in sending him out onto the battlefield. He couldn't tell what was happening. All Naruto heard was a loud boom, and when he opened his eyes, he felt himself stuck in a cramped space. Kurama had finally woken up, and Naruto was glad that his friend was doing okay. After prodding around, the Jinchuriki pushed the front of the box-like structure that he was in as hard as he could, and it opened with a loud groan. The light outside was blinding, and the blonde had to shield his eyes from the glare. He looked down at his hands, then his body, making sure everything was intact before he looked ahead to see someone he hadn't expected to see ever again.
"Gaara?" he asked hesitantly. "Is that you? What's going on here?"
Naruto slowly got out of the coffin and walked forward, unaware that his friend hadn't moved from where he stood.
"Oi, Gaara! What's wrong? Are you okay?"
That was horrible voice acting, but please bear with me. I'm tired. That shook the Kazekage out of his stupor, and the blonde shinobi looked at his friend in concern. It was weird to see the usually stoic redhead act like this. It wasn't like him at all. Gaara was anything but okay at this moment, and his pale face turned a few shades paler.
Naruto, it can't be. Of all the people that could have come back, why?
He watched Naruto look at him with concern, a look that made him break inside. Onuki was looking between Kazekage and the blonde boy in confusion.
"Kazekage-dono, I didn't know that your relation is to this boy, but we need to stop him before he can get to the rest of our forces. Now is the time to be strong. He's no longer acting on his own will.
Naruto laughed lightly.
No, there's no need to worry. I'm on your side. There's a lot more to the story than that, but for now, that's all you need to know. Now, where's the enemy?"
He watched as the Tsuchikage's mouth dropped open in shock as he pointed to where the allied shinobi forces were fighting the Mizukage and Raikage.
"Yosh, that settles it. Gaara, Gigi, let's end this quickly."
Without another word, Naruto sped off, leaving two very confused Kages behind.
"Kurama!"
Okay, that was horrible.
"Kurama, I know we haven't practiced much, but do you think you can go into the Kyuubi mode right now?"
The kitsune slowly nodded within Naruto's mindscape.
"Be careful, brat. Don't use all my chakra all at once."
Naruto smiled inwardly, then concentrated on his chakra until a familiar yellow glow covered his body. A cloak formed on his back and he felt his speed increase, and then he rushed towards his enemy. From what he could see, the shinobi in front of him were being tossed around brutally by a large, muscular man with a scar running across his chest. Just as the powerhouse was about to pummel someone into the ground, Naruto flashed in between his fist and grabbed the man, barely missing the impact by an inch. He stood up and patted the person he just saved. who in turn passed out from the stress. Naruto looked at the Raikage, then glanced back at the shinobi behind him. One look at his face was enough to frighten anyone, and he didn't blame them. Because of the Edo Tensei, his eyes were black and his face had cracks in it, which would be a sign that he was the enemy.
Gaara, Gigi, take care of that guy over there. I'll take care of this one,
he said decidedly. The redhead looked at Naruto warily, then nodded.
Okay, but be careful. We already lost you once. Can't lose you again.
Before the blonde could say another word, the two ran off, leaving him to deal with the reanimated Raikage that was approaching him. Naruto looked at his opponent and he knew that this would be a tough fight, especially since he had barely managed to maneuver around the speed of the Kage.
Dodai,
asked the reanimated Raikage.
Is that you?
Naruto looked over his shoulder to see a man with an eye patch respond. Hi. It seems that even with this despicable jutsu, you are as formidable as ever, Raikage-sama. Forgive me for failing to prevent this. The burly man shook his head.
What matters now is that you all stop me and do it quickly. I don't have control over what I'm doing and I don't like that one bit.
Dodai nodded, then walked towards Naruto. You must be the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, Naruto Uzumaki. Well, right now isn't the time to ask why you've been summoned to help us. Raikage-sama's fast, and we just need to keep him back using Windstar techniques. Create an opening so the sealing team can intervene. That's the best we can do for now.
Windstar, huh?
Naruto grinned, then leapt up into the air.
Rasen Shuriken!
He grabbed the mask in one of his extra hands he had from going into Kyuubi mode and brought it towards the Raikage, who dodged it last minute. Naruto smirked as he threw the Rasen Shuriken aiming at his opponent's back. The Raikage dodged again, but this time the Jinchuriki was right in front of him, waiting to catch his jutsu once again.
He can't avoid it this time,
yelled Naruto as he jumped forward quickly, getting in close range as he slammed the massive chakra into the Raikage, who was thrown back by the impact. Temari had been watching the display with shock written all over her features, and she didn't know what to think. On one hand, her mind had a million questions concerning Naruto's reanimation and why he was fighting alongside them. On the other hand, her mind had a million questions concerning Naruto's reanimation and why he was fighting alongside them. On the other hand, Temari wanted to know how he had been able to amass such a powerful amount of wind chakra. Naruto saw the sealing team running forward and he stepped aside to let them do their work. As they began wrapping the Raikage, he suddenly tore the paper off of him. Dodai choked as he saw the animated Kage hold his hand out.
Everyone get back! Earth-style users, make a wall right now!
A handful of shinobi ran forward and began creating a mud wall, leaving him with just Naruto in front of the Raikage. The Jinchuriki did not know what was happening, but he sensed something bad was about to happen. He made the decision to jump over the wall with Dodai under his arm to get away from the Kage. Naruto landed and Dodai immediately got in front of him and put his hand to the ground.
Lava style, rubber wall!
The mass began forming behind the mud wall, and everyone watched as the Raikage tore through the hardest earth like it was nothing before being stopped by the rubber. It wasn't enough. Just as the rubber wall was torn, Naruto grabbed Dodai and leaped back, watching as the Raikage came to a stop before lowering two of his fingers. The rubber-style user paled at this sight.
Naruto, you need to get rid of him right now. The fewer fingers Raikage-sama uses, the more energy is concentrated, meaning the more damage can be done.
Naruto looked at his opponent, then did a once-over as he saw a large scar on the man's chest.
Ocha, where did Jicha Raikage get that scar?
Dodai looked at where the blonde had been pointing at. He said that was the most humiliating wound he ever received. Not even the fourth Raikage knows how he got it. All I know is that it happened when he was restraining the Hachibi. Kurama decided to butt in at that point.
Naruto, if he was fighting Yugi, we can contact him through the tailed beast plane. We aren't fully linked, so it'll be harder to access it, and we don't have much time in this mode either. I'm giving you a little more chakra. It should be more than enough to get through to him. Hurry.
Naruto closed his eyes, concentrating as he tried to access what Kurama called the tailed beast plane. He had heard him talk about it once or twice, and he knew it was some sort of telepathic link that only the tailed beast and their Jinchuriki could get into. When the blonde opened his eyes, he found that he was standing in a room full of glowing green, and in front of him was the Hachibi and his Jinchuriki.
Kurama? What are you doing here?
I thought you were dead! Exclaimed the Hachibi, surprise coloring his voice. Kurama, who had been beside Naruto, rolled his eyes at his brother.
Now is not the time for this, Gyuki. How did you hurt the old Gija Raikage?
As the Hachibi relayed the story, Naruto couldn't help but look at the Jinchuriki before him. The man had blonde hair and looked just like the reanimated Raikage he was fighting.
Brat, we don't have much time. We have to go back. Gyuki, you need to come with your host and meet us. The only way we can help out is if the two of us link. Naruto, go!
Yelled Kurama. Back in the real world, Naruto opened his eyes and smiled. And that is where we're gonna leave off the second episode. Holy mother of Satan's left nipple, I am tired as fuck. I really could just collapse right now and I wouldn't wake up for a few hours. Anyway, so that was a lovely episode. Again, don't forget to check out 11 the Ego on fanfiction.net and his stories. He does a lot more than just Naruto stuff, so of course be ready to check that out. But obviously the best one is at least this one in my eyes, because I haven't read any of his other works. So don't forget to support 11 the Ego on his post, I guess, on fanfiction.net. And of course, if you guys want another episode of this, 20 likes and I'll get to it hopefully as fast as I can, because college and his physical classes have been boring as fuck. My sleeping schedule has been completely wiped out of its own existence. I am tired. I just want to go to bed. Well, that's about it for now, I guess. Until the next one, fare thee well, my fellow humans. I guess I'm tired. What the fuck? Where's the lights? Oh shit.